Hi kids, welcome to oh my gosh, Econ today. Maybe I should know what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you guys about dead weight loss on the board and go through all the directions. It's really not difficult. It's basically combining what we learned about taxes with what we know about like producer, consumer, total surplus. So just follow along on the board. If you want to try to draw this, you can. If you look, I have just a typical supply and demand graph with nothing else going on. And if you notice, I labeled that is way too dark. I labeled the curves, the producer and consumer surplus A and B, okay? So with this, we're gonna look at how taxes can affect producer and consumer surplus. Let me get that up a little bit more. Okay. So with this, we're going to be looking at, let's say the government steps in. In this case, the government is not involved at all. So actually, let's do this. So let's say pre-tax. Pre-tax, the government's not involved at all. What do we see? For consumer surplus, you have A. That's consumer surplus. How do we know that? It's below demand, above price. All right, and how do we get to producer surplus city? We take a B pass. We take a below price, above supply. So that is B. And simple enough, total surplus is A plus B. You always add them together. You never multiply them. All right, but let's assume the government comes in and taxes us. We're going to see a new tax. So I'm going to erase these, because we're going to assume the government's going to come in and put in a new tax. And we know what that looks like. It's right here. It's that wedge that I taught you guys about. That wedge that they put in. And we call that, what are we going to make this today? Let's make this we're going to make it the Charmin toilet paper market. Okay, the Soviet Charmin toilet paper market. So the government says we are going to tax the Soviet toilet paper. So here's the tax. The new quantity makes this the tax. And remember, we have this. This is the price that the sellers of the Soviet toilet paper are going to get. And then this is the price the buyers are going to pay. So that kind of messes up our consumer and producer and total surplus. So this is how we have to look at, how does this affect those things now? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label these again, A, B, C, D, E, and F. So we're still in that same area that we saw before, but now it got chopped up a little bit because of this new tax that got put into play. So again, this QT, PS, PB, this is the price of the buyer pays, the price the seller is going to put in their pocket after that tax, which is the wedge right there. We're going to see all of that combined with how that affects consumer and producer surplus. So with the tax, this is going to see a major change. So consumer surplus, remember, consumer surplus is still below demand, above price. And who are the consumers? The buyers. So it's the buyer's price. So it's below demand, above price that they have to pay. So it is A, but obviously A is a little bit smaller. You can physically see that. If there were mathematical numbers to this, you would see that too. Let's look at producer surplus. Remember, producer surplus is, how do you get to producer surplus city? A B pass. So it is below supply, or below price, excuse me, the price the seller gets and puts in their pocket, above supply. Below price, above supply. So it's D in this case. So what are all these new things? Okay, I'm going to show you that. The tax revenue is B plus C. This right here is the tax. Remember, that's the tax. So think about that. That's the amount of the tax from here to here. That's the wedge. This right here is how many products are sold. So let's say this is like 25 and this is 50, okay? Let's say that this is the amount of toilet paper that's sold with the new tax. So, and this tax, let's say the tax is $1. And this represents $1 from here to here, represents $1. So the government is getting that $1 times the amount of toilet paper sold, which is 25. So that tax times this amount sold, that is the tax revenue the government gets to put in their pocket. So what about E and F? E and F is known as dead weight loss. And what is dead weight loss? Dead weight loss is the quantity lost due to a market disturbance. In this case, a tax. So, I want you guys to look at this. Remember, beforehand with the market, let's say this is 50, let's say this is 25. Let's say this is 10, 10.50, and 9.50. Okay, because that is a difference of $1. So beforehand, before the government got involved and put in a tax, we see that in the market of Soviet Charmin toilet paper, 50 packages were being sold at a price of $10. But now that the government got involved and put a tax on it, and we have to pay a higher price, we're not buying as much. And since they're selling it at a lower price, they're not selling as much. So this represents all of the toilet paper that was completely lost that would have been on the market if there wasn't a tax. It's the quantity lost due to the market disturbance, in this case a tax. Sometimes it can be a regulation, but for the sake of ease, just think of it as a tax. The government said, we're taxing your toilet paper now, so we beforehand were like, oh, well, we'll buy 50 at $10 a pop, but now that we have to pay a higher price and they're not making as much money, neither one of us are willing to go at 50. We're going at a lower number because of that tax, so look at, this is what was given up. This area is what was given up. So last thing I'm going to show you is, so we've got consumer surplus, consumer surplus, producer surplus, the tax revenue, the deadweight loss. I'll kind of do it like that. Okay, so the last thing we're going to look at is, see if you can see that on there. Yep, total surplus. So the total surplus is going to be A plus B plus C plus D. Because I know that this is tax revenue, but the government is getting good out of it. So remember, surplus, total surplus is like measuring our economic well-being. Well, in this case, this is measuring consumers' economic well-being. This is measuring producers' economic well-being, and the tax revenue is representing the government's economic well-being. So it's all of these together that is total surplus. This is just that amount of toilet paper just disappeared, basically. It's no longer in existence because it's that wedge that made all of this change, that made our original consumer producer total surplus change. So that's deadweight loss. What I want you guys to do now is go to Carnegie Hall, practice, 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 and try this out. Take a screenshot of it. Let me see if I can. I'm going to pause the video for a second. Let's see. Just one second. Okay, I moved it up a little bit closer so you can kind of see it without the glare. I see that there's just a little bit of glare, but it's just over the D in demand if you can't tell. Everything else I have written up there you can totally see. So let me know if you have any questions. If not, I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you soon, and we'll be talking about international trade next.